Picture this. You are standing on a windswept plateau in Yorkshire. Your lungs burn with every breath as the freezing air crystallizes in your chest. Today is March 29th, 1461, a day that should be reserved for the palm branches and hymns of Palm Sunday. But God seems to have vacated this land. Around you, the clanking of 50,000 suits of armor creates a macabre symphony. The 60 pounds of steel and leather on your back are dragging your shoulders down, and your feet are slowly sinking into a slurry of half-frozen mud. Visibility? It is nearly zero. An unseasonable blizzard is howling, whipping ice crystals like jagged razors against your eyes. But here's the terrifying part. You aren't here to capture a castle or loot a treasury. You are here because of an order just issued from both sides. No quarter. No prisoners, no ransoms. If you fall and raise your hand in mercy, the cousin on the other side will not pull you up. He will crush your skull with a warhammer to save time. Welcome to Towton, the most brutal, bloodiest battle ever fought on English soil. In the next 10 hours, 1% of this entire nation's population will be wiped out. Blood will flow so heavily, it will melt the snow, forming dark, crimson streams that run down into the valley. Before we descend into this hell, hit subscribe to ensure you don't miss these stories of extreme human survival. And tell me, if you were in that blizzard, what would you be fighting for? Or would you drop your sword in the very first minute? To understand why Towton became a slaughterhouse, we must look at the two men desperate for the oak chair known as the English throne. On one side, Henry VI of the House of Lancaster, a man so piously weak he frequently fell into months-long catatonic stupors. Henry wasn't evil, but his frailty created a power vacuum that the wolves around him couldn't ignore. Behind him stood Margaret of Anjou, a queen with a heart of iron, willing to burn the country to protect her son's inheritance. Facing them was Edward of York, 19 years old, 6'4", a literal giant in an age where the average height was barely 5'5". Edward didn't believe in compromise. He believed in speed, power, and brutality. To Edward, a throne wasn't inherited, it was seized in blood. The two armies met on a narrow plateau between the villages of Towton and Saxton. The Lancastrians held every advantage. They had 35,000 men and occupied the high ground. Edward's Yorkists had only 25,000, exhausted after a long march. By every law of military logic, the Yorkists should have lost before they began. But that morning, the wind shifted. And in medieval warfare, wind is destiny. Let's toggle the camera to the technical reality of the era. The ultimate weapon of the English, the longbow. Lord Fauconberg, the Yorkist commander, was no dreamer. He saw the snow blowing directly into the faces of the Lancastrians. He ordered his archers to step forward. Let's analyze the physics. A 60-gram arrow fired with a tailwind of 40 miles per hour has the kinetic energy to pierce plate armor at 200 yards. But firing into that wind, you lose 30% of your range and all of your accuracy. The Yorkists unleashed a volley and stepped back. The Lancastrians, blinded by the snow quilling their eyes, couldn't see the enemy. They only heard the hiss of 10,000 arrows tearing the air. They fired back instinctively, but alas, the Lancastrian arrows fell like dead leaves, landing 40 yards short of the Yorkist lines. Tens of thousands of precious arrows were wasted, bristling in the snow like a field of thorns. And then, the ultimate insult. The Yorkists stepped forward, plucked the enemy's own arrows from the ground, and sent them back with interest. Desperation erupted. The Lancastrians realized that if they stayed put, they would be shot like rabbits in a cage. They abandoned their high ground. They charged down the hill. This was the beginning of the end. When two masses of steel collide, the sound will haunt you forever. It isn't the clink-clink of Hollywood swordplay. It's the sound of iron smashing bone, of steel grinding against steel. Shift the camera down to ground level. The white snow has turned into a pink slush, then quickly to a deep, thick crimson mud. The melee lasted for 10 agonizing hours. Imagine the exhaustion. Swinging a 2-kilogram poleaxe continuously for 10 minutes is a feat. They did it for 10 hours. Thousands of men collapsed from sheer exhaustion before they were ever stabbed. And when you fall in a crowd that dense, you stay down. You are trampled by hundreds of armored boots. Your lungs collapse. Your mouth fills with the mud and blood of your own kind. By mid-afternoon, Yorkist reinforcements under the Duke of Norfolk appeared on the flank. It was like a knife driven into the side of a dying bull. The Lancastrian line shattered. The race began. But it wasn't a race for survival. It was a race into a mass grave. Behind the fleeing Lancastrians was the Cockbeck Stream. In their panic, thousands of men in heavy plate armor plunged into the icy water. Steel became their coffins. Bodies piled so high that the fleeing men behind no longer had to swim. They ran across a bridge made of their own comrades' corpses. The chronicles claim the Cockbeck ran red for 3 days, carrying the news of the catastrophe all the way to the river wharf. In 1996, archaeologists found a mass grave at Towton. They found the skeleton of a man known as Towton 25. His skull was shattered by 8 separate blows to the face. Why 8 when 1 was enough to kill? It was the brutality of revenge. It shows that at Towton, humanity evaporated. Only primal rage remained. 28,000 men died. The House of Lancaster was nearly extinguished. Edward IV took the crown, ruling over a country that had just lost 1% of its people in a single Sunday. Towton reminds us, history isn't written in ink. It's written in blood and suffering. When we look back at these cold bones, we don't see heroes. We see the true price of power. Thank you for riding with me through the blizzard of Towton. Don't forget to share this video so the world doesn't forget the bloody lessons of the past. Always saddle up anyway. Goodbye.